Anyways, what I got in here is I brought in an expert who really knows like Nashville, rock and roll, the whole scene, did the whole thing. It's Smilin Jay, and he was in BR549. Say hello, Jay.
Hi, Tom. How you been?
Well, pretty good now that you're here. Yeah. So Jay, and if you didn't know, he was in the band called BR549, which is it was kind of a joke off of Hee Haw, right?
It was the phone number off of the old show Hee Haw.
Yeah.
And it was, if you've ever tried to name a band, any cool name you come up with has been taken.
Yeah.
Or it's a terrible name. And we needed a name, and something came up about Hee Haw. Oh, yeah, BR549. It was just a matter of like, well, that's not going to be used. And then never dreaming that I'd be talking about it 30 years later. What's that mean? It was a phone number.
Yeah. Yeah. And so let's get right into the band first. Like, how did you get into the band? And well, first off, tell us what the band was. It was like a rockabilly band, but really not. It kind of had pop overtones.
Well, you ask 100 different people, and they're going to tell you 100 different answers on that. What was BR549? It was a traditional country band in the heart of Nashville, Tennessee in 1993, where Nashville didn't want to embrace its past, its musical past. They wanted to sweep it under the rug. And we showed up and said, no, this is cool. We want to play Fair and Young songs and Johnny Horton songs. But we had a bit of a do-it-yourself ethic to it. So it was a punk rock ethic. It wasn't a punk rock musical style, but it was we're going to do this ourselves. We're going to take over this bandstand. Robert's Western World. Lower Broadway at the time was just wide open. It was just mainly singer-songwriters. It was just run down part of town. It had been abandoned. Yeah.
So what year is this?
93, 94.
Yeah.
It was sex shops. It was
really
peep shows.
You're kidding.
It was horrific. It was the first time I ever went down there. Well, the first time was with my parents when I was about 7, but on a vacation. I remember going down there. But when I moved here from Indiana, I go downtown, and all the history. The Ryman Auditorium is down there. The Ryman was boarded up and left for dead.
Really?
It was empty.
Wow.
They had moved. The Grand Ole Opry had moved out to Opryland and left downtown. Mm-hmm. And with that, it imploded. The businesses one by one left downtown, and all that was left were these little honky tonks and some furniture stores and some pawn shops, and like I said, peep shows. There was a lot of hookers. It was not inviting. I went down there. I was so disappointed. It was just not a cool place. And then I started playing guitar in a band called Hellbilly, and Chuck Mead came to see our band, and I met Chuck and his girlfriend, his wife now, and he said, "Hey, I got a gig playing at Tootsie's." He was actually working as a doorman at Tootsie's.
Yeah.
He said, "You got to come down to Lower Broad. It's amazing." And I was like, "I've been. It's not amazing. It's sad."
Yeah.
And he said, "No. It's wide open. You can do whatever you want." So I went down there to hang out with Chuck, and I saw it through his eyes. And he was showing me, he's like, "We're in Tootsie's, the little club down there." And there wasn't many people down there. It was just a few people. And the guy who was playing the gig, it was Zach Taylor playing a guitar, just a single, playing a guitar and singing. Yeah. And he took a break, and Chuck asked if he could get up and sing a song. And he got up and he played Dixie Fried by Carl Perkins.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I'd ever heard Chuck perform. And I was like, wow, this guy's great.
Yeah.
And then Chuck finished his song, and Chuck said, have you been out back? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And we walked up through Tootsie's, and we walked up the steps. He opened the back door, and the back room at Tootsie's had caved in. The roof had fallen in. It was just it was almost like a patio because the roof had fallen down. But that back room in Tootsie's where all the old songwriters used to hang out, Roger Miller and Willie Nelson and all those guys, Chris Christopherson. You open it up, and the Ryman Auditorium is right there, and I see the bricks of the Ryman, and it was almost like I heard the music. Open the door.
Yeah.
And we're in the alley there between Tootsie's and the Ryman, and we're feeling all the ghosts and everything. And like I said, through Chuck's eyes, I saw like, this is really cool, and I wanted to hang out there.
Yeah.
So I started just hanging out, and Chuck met Gary, and they started playing and started the band. And I was just drinking. I was just going down there to drink when I wasn't playing with my band.
Yeah.
But they were starting to get this thing happen. It was a scene was starting to happen. And the thing about Lower Broadway, as it evolved, it was every type. There wasn't a type that showed up. It was truck drivers. It was college students. It was hipsters. It was musicians. It was retired couples. It was people that just wanted to go down and dance. It was people that just needed to get a drink.
Yeah.
It was businessmen. It was like you couldn't peg it. There wasn't a regular type. It was everybody.
Yeah.
And so we were playing, and as I joined the band, then I quit Hellbilly, and they needed an upright bass player, so I traded in my guitar, got an upright bass.
Wait, so Hellbilly, was that like a psychobilly band, or what kind of?
We were rockabilly, yeah.
But you had what were you playing? An electric bass, or?
No, I played guitar, played a Gretsch.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I was lead guitar player.
Okay.
I'd never played upright bass before. I joined BR549.
Oh, okay.
They needed an upright bass, but they had an electric bass player. I was watching them with the electric bass player, and they'd do a Buck Owens song, and it sounded great.
Yeah.
And then they'd go into a Webb Pierce song, and
yeah,
it had the electric bass, and it didn't sound right. Like, you need the upright for that.
Yeah, it's like Bill Haley. You know, when
They'd go
they did
into
the
a Bill Haley
70s, they did
song.
electric bass, and you're like, what happened to it?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. And same thing when they would go back into a song that I knew the record of that had the electric bass, it sounded right. Well, they had been, I approached them like, you guys need an upright bass player, and they said, yeah, we do. Do you know anybody? And I tried to help them find a couple that were in town, but they had real gigs. Like, one guy was playing full time with Johnny Cash. One guy was playing with Emmylou Harris. So I got a bass. They said, why don't you get a bass and join us? And so I did, and jumped in. And so I think you originally asked me what kind of band it was. We were doing the old country stuff with a little bit of rockabilly, with a little bit of gospel, with a little bit of western swing, a little bit of all of it.
So when you say like old country, like you're like 60s country,
50s,
Buck Owens,
40s, 50s.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So Milton Brown, Bob Wills, that kind of stuff, up to Buck Owens and Merle Haggard.
Okay.
George Jones, a lot of George Jones, a lot of Johnny Horton, Johnny Cash, like we said, our parents' record collections.
Uh-huh.
But with the five of us in the band, we had 5 different directions. We were all coming to the same place, whether it was through square dances. Our fiddle player, grew up playing square dances. Gary grew up with gospel quartets and working back to the country music. Chuck and I were coming a little more from the punk rock side of things, and the Stray Cats kind of thing. The roots bands, going back at it that direction. And Shaw, our drummer, was just all over the map. He was into everything. Yeah. And so we had this mixture of all these styles of music coming together. It made a really unique thing. And when people would ask, are you a rock band? Are you a country band? Are you a rockabilly band? We always just said we're a country band, whatever that means. Yeah. And people who sell music want to categorize music, and they feel the need to categorize music. And we were kind of like, hey, we do what we do, and let other people try to label it, but it's not an easily tidily labeled thing.
So it's like, that's early 90s, and you guys you're on Broadway, but Broadway is just kind of beat down. It's not like crazy like it is now.
Right. It started, like I said, when they started playing there, it was a ghost town, and it was shady and weird. And then as they played, more and more people came, and it started to clean up, and Nashville started to put, there started to be police presence down there, and one by one they were cleaning out the riffraff, and another adult bookstore would disappear. Yeah. Another peep show would get swept away, one by one, and then they got the hockey arena built. Yeah. That was happening at the same time. So then the city was investing in that area and trying to rebuild it, and that all happened at the same time we were playing. So everything, all of a sudden, more and more people, it became more friendly, family friendly, and people could come.
Well, that kind of goes on to the whole theme of, like, when you first came in here, you're telling me, like, you were always in the right place at the right time.
My whole life.
Not that you knew, it just seemed to happen to you. And it sounds like it was the right place at the right time, playing at Robert's Western World.
The 5 of us all converged on Nashville at the same time, roughly, within within 12 months of each other. And we all met up. We were all enamored with that history of Nashville and the music that came out of here. And we were all sickened by the fact that the locals who grew up here were kind of embarrassed by it. And, oh, that old honky-tonk, that hillbilly stuff is embarrassing. And, you know, they'd rather just kind of forget that ever happened. And we were trying to say, no, this is really cool. We want to celebrate it. And we started learning that the younger kids were hearing this stuff for the first, like, who is this Johnny Horton? And they wanted to know, what other songs did that guy do? And we'd start realizing that it was new to them. And, you know, to a certain extent, you know, there's a lot of those classic Jim Reeves songs or Don Gibson. And I just remember these Vanderbilt kids coming up and kind of quizzing me like, well, who sang this song? That's a really cool song.
Yeah.
And, oh yeah, you want to check out Don Gibson? He's a great one. You know, like,
yeah,
that was where we were at. We were kind of feeling like,
were you guys, I don't think that you would know all those people at that time. Like, were you learning new people as you guys were going up, or was it all your parents' records?
Parents' records.
Yeah.
Like I said, the five of us came together and had all these different connections to music, and Chuck it was up to them if they knew the lyrics.
Yeah.
We could fake almost anything if they knew enough of the lyrics to do it.
Yeah.
And Chuck could signal me with his shoulder, you know, going to the 4, going to the 5. If it was going to go, you know, coming to the 2, he'd turn around and say, go to the 2 or something. You know?
Yeah.
But it was like he could coach me through any song. And but it was impressive how many lyrics they knew. They could, and we'd get a request, somebody come up and put $1 in the jar and, you know, do you know Wanderin' by Webb Pierce? And my first thought was like, no.
Yeah.
And then Gary'd be like, wait, I think I can, yeah, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay. We're playing. Okay, I guess we know that song now.
Yeah.
And then, so there was a lot of that. And we wouldn't necessarily hit every verse, but enough to, you know, make the person happy. Like, oh, I love that song. You know, and to see their reaction. And then I would go home and be like, oh, I want to hear Wanderin' by Webb Pierce. I want to learn it. And so I did that a lot. So it was eye-opening to all of us. And vice versa. There were songs that I knew that we'd get a request for, and you know, be like, yeah, Chuck, learn the lyrics to this one. And he'd go home and cram on it. And if that person was there at the bar the next night, then, oh, here's the request. Here you go. Yeah. We'll wing it. It
sounds like it's sort of like the Beatles Star Club for you. You guys playing every night, and did you guys have a plan like, man, we're going to go big someday? Or
Chuck and Gary did.
Oh, really? Okay.
I didn't take it like that. I was just having fun doing that because I'm playing the bass for the first time. Chuck and Gary from the beginning were like, we're doing our songs as well. They always did their originals mixed in with it in that style. And they were always like, oh yeah, you know, and we'd it just like record labels weren't interested at first. They couldn't market it. And it was just like, it was a weird thing. It was a cool scene, but they weren't knocking down our door. But Timothy White showed up one night.
Who's Timothy White?
I'll tell you who he is
in
a minute.
Get in there.
But this drunk man approaches the bandstand, and I was like, I drink.
Yeah.
But this guy was drunk, and like I was kind of blowing him off. Like, yeah, I'm not going to.
Drunk guy.
Yeah. And Paul Deacon of the Mavericks, the drummer of the Mavericks, came up behind this man, got my attention, and said, talk to this guy. You know, kind of like motioned like, hey, don't blow this guy off. Okay. Yeah. So I talked to this guy. His name's Timothy White. He says, I'm the editor of Billboard magazine. The world needs to know about what's going on here. I'm going to put you on the cover of Billboard. Wow. Okay. That's amazing. I also took it like, this guy's going to wake up tomorrow and not even remember.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't take it very seriously.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Jim Bestman was assigned to interview us. And I remember talking with him. We went to Billboard's offices here on Music Row, did an interview. And I remember him kind of being like, there's not much of a story. You guys play for tip. There's no record deal. Like, I'm not sure what to say.
Yeah.
And my thought was kind of like, well, that's your problem, Jim. You know?
Yeah.
So, sure enough, next week, cover of Billboard talks about us and a couple other bands that are playing on Broadway and the scene that's happening. Well, the following week, all these record label people flew in from New York and LA, Geffen Records and Rounder Records and Warner Brothers. They all start taking us out to dinner and wining us and dining us, and this whirlwind stuff is happening. And it was all very shallow, and it felt icky.
What do you mean?
It was shallow. Like they were like, it just was like, hey, sign with us. We'll give you, do you like drugs? Do you like women?
Yeah.
Do you like, do you want these CDs? Like just, it was just all very like, like record business.
Like Pleasure Island.
Yeah. It was just kind of icky. It was exciting and it was flattering, but I also felt like this all happened so fast. This could all disappear just as quickly. And it had that feeling to it. It just didn't feel real. It just felt shallow and plasticky,
Yeah.
And like I said, it was fun, but I took it all with a grain of salt. Well, the Nashville record labels were like, why are these people all in town? Like, what's happening? Why is this guy here? Why is this guy here? Oh, they're going to see that band that plays in that little shop on Broadway.
Yeah.
And the record labels, they all knew about us and knew it was going on, but they didn't take it seriously. So they're like they're interested in them, They saw the Billboard article and everything. So then that following week, all the Nashville labels came. So then we had the heads of those labels showing up, and so it was like one week we were playing to all these out of town music bigwigs, and then the next weekend we were playing to all the in town music bigwigs, and it felt like sharks were circling us, and it wasn't until one of them bit that they all came.
Sure.
So once one of them bit, then they were all in. Then the Nashville people, it was a sense of like, we can't let this band get signed out from under us. That would look bad. So,
yeah.
So then they started coming to, and again, they're offering us crazy, weird stuff, and it was just very weird and head spinning for sure.
Yeah.
But I remember, like I said, every label was giving us here's the new CD by so and so. We just sold 1 million copies this week, and
you could be the same
here's
guy.
what we can do,
Yeah.
And what was funny about that is some of it was so out of touch with what we were about. Like, we don't want to be the guy in the suit with the funny hat selling.
Yeah.
That's not us. Like, we're not going to fit into that mold. And then other people were like, here's our legacy series. Here's all the CDs of the kind of music that you guys are playing.
Yeah,
and they were like more tuned into us and like, oh, we get that, And so we ended up signing with Arista Records.
Big enough, yeah.
And that was great. Tim Dubois, he was one that he didn't say, we want to change you, we want to mold you into something different. He was like, I want you guys to do what you do.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, we dress weird. Yeah, we have a weird name.
Yeah.
We play old-timey music. We play old instruments. We don't play new fancy instruments. We play old Gibson guitars and Gretsch guitars and a stand-up bass. That's completely out of the norm.
Yeah. No, basically the Stray Cats 10 years earlier, maybe 15 years earlier.
Yeah, for sure.
But you guys were different. It was more like...
We were Stray Cats with a fiddle.
Yeah.
That's the way I've heard it put many times. And the Stray Cats, it's really interesting. In their time of making it, they hit on that MTV wave, and they're in the new wave thing with... They're on the rock and roll side.
Yeah.
In a different section of time, they could have easily hit on the countryside.
Yeah.
Because they straddle that line.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's interesting. People don't hear the Stray Cats and think, oh, they're a country band.
Nah, never.
But they could have been steered that way, and
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's very set that, oh, they're a rock band, because that's the way they were presented to us when we were young.
Mm-hmm.
They were on the rock and roll side.
For sure.
And they're amazing. They're so good. But it was interesting that we're doing that 10 years later, and we're totally on the countryside.
Yeah.
But Arista also put us out there on some weird tours with alternative acts.
Oh, really? Like who?
We did stuff with Train.
Yeah.
We did stuff with Smashing Pumpkins. We did 2 tours with the Black Crowes.
Oh, right on.
We did. So it was really fascinating. We would play shows with George Jones, and then we'd do shows with Tim McGraw, and then we'd do a Black Crowes tour.
Yeah.
And then from night to night and from city to city, we wouldn't know where we were getting airplay. Sometimes it was the traditional country station, and it would be boot scooting.
Yeah.
Line dancers would show up. And then the next night we'd be in a place where it was the punk rock kids, the skater kids were coming out.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of all that, the big swing revival happened.
Another testament to you being like at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, totally. And Brian Setzer had us open his tour in 98.
Oh, killer.
I guess it was. And so we did North America with Brian Setzer.
Yeah.
Then Bob Dylan, we did a whole North American tour with Bob Dylan. He fixated on one of our songs on our first album.
Yeah.
And asked us to do a tour. So that's a whole other story.
Yeah, but like back up. Like, what is it like? Okay, you mentioned like, you got George Jones, Bob Dylan. Like, what's that like? Like, how far is this from Robert's Western World to now you're meeting Bob Dylan and opening up for him?
So we did about a year and a half from when I joined the band. We played at Robert's 4 nights a week and playing for tips. We get a record deal. We go out on the road. Like a year later, we're at the Grammys. It all just happened.
Yeah,
super fast. And like I said, we opened some shows for Vince Gill.
Whoa.
Really early on. That was kind of our first like, oh wow, we're in an arena.
Yeah.
We're going from this little Roberts, to a little tiny honky tonk.
Yeah.
And we're playing for 300 people max, like packed in there. And then suddenly you're at this arena, this hockey arena or basketball arena, and you're looking around like, how did we get here?
Yeah, well, and at that time I'd say like what Vince Gill, like he's probably one of the top country guys at the time. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you're playing for just like some old country act. It's like the top deal right now.
And I remember we walk out on stage before Vince Gill, and we're green. We're just a little club band, and here we are in this big arena. And I walk out on stage, and I remember somebody in the crowd, it was kind of awkward, and somebody's like, "Is that a cello?" And all we could do is we just did our I think we played 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And we just did it. And Darren at CAA, the booking agent, set those shows up. We did 2 shows with Vince, Macon, Georgia, and somewhere in Alabama. Anyway, he came down to watch us in that setting to see if it would translate. And I remember him running up to us after our set, and he said, "It totally works. Like, just be you guys. Just kind of bring the same energy."
Yeah.
And then we ended up, so through CAA, he booked us. And like I said, we got paired with these wildly different acts, just trying to kind of see where things landed. And they weren't sure how to market it. And, like I said, super excited. It was a great ride. It was really fun. Yet a whole lot of people never heard of us. On one hand, like we weren't a big smash success.
Yeah, but you said the Grammys. You guys were nominated for like 2 Grammys or something?
3 Grammy Awards, yeah. We got 3 different years. We always got really good reviews. And really a lot of great press. We got all the TV shows.
Yeah.
We did Letterman twice. We did Conan 3 times. We did Good Morning America.
Yeah.
Later with Jules Holland, we just really had a good, great run. And it was, like I said, it was like a fairy tale. And I just lucked into it.
Yeah.
I walked in, I got an upright bass.
Well,
I jumped in, and there it was.
To back up a little bit, like I know you did all those shows with all those guys, but like I just saw the clip with Jules Holland, and like he's one of my favorites, from Squeeze. Great, and he's actually sitting in with you guys playing piano and stuff. Like, were you ever like nervous? Like,
sure,
dude, I'm playing with Jules Holland,
with the guy from Squeeze.
Yeah. Did you like realize?
Oh yeah. So, oh gosh, yes. Yeah, I mean, from Vince Gill. Like, oh my gosh, Vince Gill. Jules Holland had come into Roberts before we got a record deal, and he's just a music nerd.
Yeah.
I'd say that to his face.
Yeah. And
he is a music nerd. I'm a music nerd. You're a music nerd.
Yeah.
But he was drawn to rock. He came in, he got it right away. He's like, this is amazing. And so many people had that vibe of, this is like the Beatles, not to compare us to the Beatles, but the vibe of the Reeperbahn and the Beatles in Hamburg. It's this young band playing this exciting music, and the Beatles were playing long hours and learning songs on the fly and faking their way through stuff just like we were.
Yeah.
And so we could really relate to that. And people, like I said, the music fans that were familiar with that, they came in and it was like, oh, it feels like that. We heard that constantly from people. This feels like what I've read about of the Beatles, or
we're back in Hamburg, but now we're on Broadway.
Yeah. Or people that were there in Hamburg that were there would come and be like, this feels like this is that kind of vibe. So so we knew we were onto something right with that, just that. And so Jules felt that. And Jules had me play bass on a recording he did. I don't think it's ever been released, but I went in the studio with Jules when he was here and did a recording. And then a year later, we had the record deal. We were doing our thing. We were traveling. I was in Germany. We had done a show in Germany. I got back to the hotel, and I walked in, and there was a message for me at the front desk. And the guy working in the lobby of the hotel got my attention, and said, "There's a message for you." And it was a fax from our manager here in Nashville, and it said, "Jules Holland, November 18th." Taping, I secured it. Here's the, so I remember that was a really momentous thing. I didn't realize how big of a show later with Jules Holland was. I was psyched because it was Jules Holland, and I'd worked with him, and I knew of his musical pedigree. Yeah. And he had hosted other shows like The Tube and these other shows, these music shows. So we do the later show. I was excited in the moment because that was at the BBC studio where they used to film the Old Grey Whistle Test, which so many bands, David Bowie and the Talking Heads and all these great artists, Bob Marley and the Wailers, all these great artists had been on this show, and it was like, oh, we're in this space where they did that old TV show. So we do the later show. Billy Bragg was another guest on it. Erykah Badu, Johnny Marr from the Smiths was a guest. Wow. So it's in the round. It's like all these artists of different types of music. And so we got to meet everybody, and we do our thing. Well, the next day, for the next 3 months, I'm going to say, people saw that show. And I realized what a big impact that show has in Europe. Yeah. And how many people saw it. And because in America at that time, it wasn't really known. Yeah. The show wasn't that well known.
I didn't know until YouTube came out.
Now Americans are hip to it. Yeah, so I'm really proud that we got to be on it, but it really sold us a lot of records from people that would have never been exposed to our music except for that show. And you, as you know from watching the show now, it exposes you to music you wouldn't hear. Yeah, right on. That's the point of it. Is like, oh, this is a cool band. I would have never searched them out. It would have never been on my radar. Yeah. And so, my hat's off to Jules for that. Yeah. I know, one other thing too, I was talking with Big Sandy about that. He said, when he was on Conan O'Brien, the next day they would sell 20,000 CDs or something like that. You see the spike, exactly.
Yeah.
It's amazing thing, and of course that's watered down now with
sure,
every band can get out on the internet and put their songs on YouTube and everything. Yeah. But you don't have that immediate result like you had for being on national TV, network TV. Yeah. We had the same experience. Our first thing like that was, our first thing was the Nashville network, but as far as network TV,
like a national thing,
it was Conan.
Oh yeah. Oh, right on.
Same thing. Next day, whoa, big spike. Yeah. You could see, oh, that's because we did Conan. Oh, that's because we did Letterman, and this big wave of sales. Yeah.
Well, when you play on Conan, you get a sound check or in one take at it, and it's because it's semi-live, but it's the tape.
It's live. Yeah. No, it was treated like you get your one shot to play it. Yeah. But the thing I loved about both Letterman and Conan was we did a sound check, we set up, we played. They did what they called camera blocking, so they would basically rehearse. Okay, we play this song all the time, so we don't really need to rehearse the song, but they wanted to see oh, this singer's going to sing the line here, so feature the steel player when he does his lick here. So they would rehearse the camera blocking.
Yeah.
And they would record the audio as they did that. So they would pull us
Oh.
into the control room and say, listen to, like, do you like the way this sounds? And so I could listen to my bass and say, yeah, I like that. And both times they had it dialed in the way I liked it.
Yeah.
And but I always appreciated that. It wasn't just like, oh, we'll try to mix this like a electric bass.
That's one thing I noticed about like Conan. Like he's a rockabilly fan anyway. So like he always had. I know his team. He had a lot of bands with stand-up bass and the same kind of bands in your ilk.
Oh, yeah,
so
for sure.
I assume that they had a good sound for that. They knew how to mix that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they were hip to that for sure. And so I always appreciated that. And Conan, the second time we played Conan, he brought his 6120 out, and I remember him standing there kind of jamming with us at soundcheck.
Yeah.
And that was a big thrill for me to meet him in that capacity.
Yeah.
But the first night, I had heard the Max Weinberg 7 do Because They're Young by Dwayne Eddy as a bumper, as they would go to commercial.
Yeah.
And I'd heard them do that. And I asked Max Weinberg while we're hanging around there. The musicians in the band, both with Letterman and Conan, they wanted to talk gear and hang out, and they had to be there. They're on the clock, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about guitars and tunings and stuff, and the drummers are talking about drums and everything. And so I asked Max, hey, could you do Because They're Young? Just, maybe. What I know you've done it,
Sure.
And he was like, yeah, I love that. I don't know that he said he would do it for sure, but he lit up when I asked him about it. Yeah. And sure enough, right before we played, they played Because They're Young.
Oh, right on.
That made me so relieved. Like, we're about to go on national TV for the first time, and I'm nervous, and I've got the butterflies and everything. And here comes the band playing some Dwayne Eddy, and it felt like it was a soothing, and
like they got your back.
Yeah. And so we did our song. It was Betty Betty, about Betty Page, and like I said, a really great spike in sales and everything. And about, I don't know, a week and a half later, I'm back in Nashville. I run into Dwayne Eddy.
Oh, no, yeah.
And he said, hey, I saw you on Conan and Bryan. And we're talking about it. I'm thrilled. Wow, he saw us on Conan. And I said, did you notice what song they played before we played? And he said, yeah. He said, did you have something to do with that? And I said, I did. He said, I thought maybe you did.
Oh, that's cool.
So I've known Dwayne since I was a little boy.
Really?
My family and Dwayne have go way back. So he's been like a guardian angel to me.
Yeah.
So that was really special. Not only that he saw us, but that he caught that and that they played it for him. So a couple years later, we were on Conan again, and I didn't do anything this time. And it wasn't right before we hit the stage, but one of the breaks they played Because They're Young.
Oh, really?
So I went to Max afterwards, and I told Max that story. Yeah, I told Max about Dwayne saw us the last time and that he did that song, and I said something to Max like, was that a coincidence? And Max smiled. He's like, I thought you'd notice that. It wasn't a coincidence. He saw us on again and did Because They're Young for us again. So that was a nice little tip of the hat to Dwayne.
Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah. And then I did want to go over one of the cool stories I've seen online is where you guys played the wedding for the singer for the Black Crowes, right? And I assume he knew you guys because you guys opened up for him.
We did 2 tours with them, yeah.
Yeah.
They got our Live from Robert's record, the first EP that we put out, and the Robinson brothers and the drummer were always looking they wanted to turn their fans on to different types of music.
Yeah.
So like they would do a tour and they'd get the Dirty Dozen brass band to open.
Yeah.
And Steve Gorman is the drummer. And they would do a tour and they'd get, not some clone band of theirs that would sound just like their stuff.
Yeah.
They wanted to turn their fans on to this different types of music. And Chris and Rich's dad played guitar in country bands growing up, and so they had been exposed to this old country music like we played, and they heard what we were doing, and we had songs with drug references in them too, and we were playing this traditional country style, but a little bit
it's got an edge
turned on its ear a little bit. And so they really liked that album and were interested and asked us to do a tour. I think we might have done just a few shows at first, Then it turned into a full tour.
Yeah.
And we did another one. So we had stayed in touch with them. We'd cross paths on the road through the years, and Chris started dating Kate Hudson.
Yeah.
And she'd show up at the shows, and they'd come to see us, and we'd end up playing music and singing, late into the night.
Like with Kate
out.
Hudson?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
right on.
And Kate was kind of on the road with the Black Crowes, researching a role for this new movie that she was going to be in called Almost Famous.
Almost Famous, yeah. Oh,
So
right on. Okay.
So at this point, she just is. This is Goldie Hawn's daughter. Like, that's my point of reference to her.
She wasn't famous.
She wasn't famous. She was Goldie Hawn's daughter.
Yeah.
Beautiful, super nice, super sweet. Really, just a great person. Very, just. We always had a great time with her, and comes up that they're going to get married. So they asked us if we would come play the wedding, and it was New Year's Eve in Aspen, Colorado. It was going to be 1999, like 98 to 99.
Okay, yeah.
So we go to Aspen, and we played a song at the ceremony, which was outside at like, 9 o'clock at night, freezing cold.
Yeah, what time of year?
It was New Year's Eve.
Oh, God.
It was freezing in Aspen. It was snowy, and we're outside, and we play a song, and I still have it. Kate and Chris gave us gloves and a hat.
Yeah.
And I remember I had to take my gloves off to play the upright bass, but we played a song at the ceremony. And then and it was very brief, and there was maybe like 12 people there for the ceremony.
Uh-huh.
And then we went for the reception. It was a big, nice lodge in Aspen, and that was a big crowd. And Goldie and Kurt were there. They were at the ceremony too, but it was, that was, hundreds of people, and big blowout party. And we played, and that was amazing. Now this is where the story gets good.
Okay.
So we play the show, we play the reception.
Yeah.
We're ready to head out and leave the next morning. Our bus is parked at the Kurt and Goldie's house there at the base of the hill of their house. We wake up. It's beautiful, like icicle trees, snowy Aspen mountains, whatever, just Aspen.
Yeah.
And this secluded part, and our bus is there. And I'm thinking, like, I remember having this thought of like, we should have left. I just slept in the bunk thinking the bus will take off and we'll leave, and I don't have to get up.
Yeah.
We'll be on the road when I wake up. I wake up and the bus isn't moving. I'm looking out the window. It's beautiful, but we're still at Kurt and Goldie's house in Aspen. And again, I'm not too worried about it. I'm not thinking much about it. Then I find out that there was something wrong with our bus, and there was a part that was needed, and it was New Year's Day.
Yeah.
We weren't getting a part
parts.
It was going to be 24 hours.
Forget that.
We had the generator worked, so we were comfortable. We had power. We had heat. The bus was fine to sit there. It was just a matter of we weren't going to be rolling.
Yeah.
And
but you're in front of Goldie Hawn's house.
Yep. And that said, I mean, we're down the driveway. We're kind of like where you live here. Like we're at the end of the driveway. We're not just like
you're at the front door
parked by their house.
But I'm sure they realize there's this big bus.
Well, we're sitting there, and again, like I said, we got generator, we got satellite TV, we got heat, we got music, we got food.
Yeah.
We're okay. This is an inconvenience, but not really. We're fine.
Yeah.
There's a knock at the door of the bus. We go, and it's Kate, and she's like, "What's up? Are you? I thought you guys were gone. Like, what's going on?" Well, we tell her the story, and it's like, "Oh my gosh!" She's like, "Come up to the house." No, we're fine. We're fine. And she's like, "No, I won't hear of it. Like, come up to bring your instruments. Come on up to the house. We're gonna watch. It was New Year's Day. We're gonna watch football games."
Yeah.
Kurt had killed an elk, and Goldie had made elk stew. So they were having elk stew.
Really? He's really that much of a man?
Yeah. He's Kurt Russell. My gosh. Snake Plissken. So we unload our gear and we haul it up. We walk up the long driveway there. It was a hike through the snow. And we get up there and we get in, and they're super welcoming and kind. And looking back on it, Kurt and Goldie were giddy because their daughter just got married. It was like a celebration. It was, they were just very up and happy and everything. So we're there and we're playing music, and Chris is there, and Chris Robinson, and they're singing, and we're doing our thing. Like I said, many times late nights after shows we would jam, and so we were jamming around like we do. But this time we're playing, and I look over, and Kurt Russell is sitting on the couch. Now, when I was a child, Kurt Russell played Elvis in the movie, and I'm looking there, and like in my mind, like Elvis is sitting on the couch while we're playing. That's where my mind's going. And he wants to hear Roy Orbison songs, and so he starts yelling out Roy Orbison songs, and we start trying to fake them and do as many as we know. And
Pretty Woman is not easy. It's like a lot of chords.
There's a lot of chords in those songs, yeah. And I remember Leah specifically. He wanted to hear Leah, and I remember faking that one. And but that was one he said that's one of my favorite songs. That always stuck with me. It's funny what you remember, little snatches of memories. Well, we have Stu. I remember watching. Purdue was playing a Rose Bowl that day or something. I remember watching that. So that's where I'm from. Purdue. Well, about mid-afternoon, Goldie is standing in the kitchen. She's holding a wireless phone, a cordless phone. And she gets my attention. She goes, "You got to let your parents know that you're okay." And I'm like, "What do you like?" I had a cell phone at the time.
You're a grown man.
Yeah. Like, what? Okay. And she's like, "No, what's your number?" Like, "What's your parents' number?" And she starts dialing, and I tell her, and she starts dialing the phone, and she hands me. She doesn't talk. She just hands me the phone.
Yeah.
And I get on the phone, and my mom and my dad both got on the line. I remember they both answered, and they knew that we were playing the wedding and everything, but I hadn't talked to them that day. So they answer, and I remember I'm kind of embarrassed in front of all the guys.
Yeah.
Goldie's making me call my parents, right?
Yeah.
So I step around the corner. I remember being in a laundry room by the washer and dryer there off the kitchen, and I'm on the phone. I'm like, "Our bus broke down. We're stuck in Aspen, but we're hanging out. This is amazing. We're Goldie insisted that." Well, my parents' reaction was the caller ID said Goldie Hawn. They were super excited.
Oh, that's cool.
Way cool. So we stayed. I don't think we slept over. I think we stayed late, and then we went back to the bus.
Yeah.
And then they got the part, and then by the next morning we were gone.
Yeah.
And but it was such a great thing that we didn't plan. It wasn't planned that way. It just right place, right time.
Yeah.
It all happened as we left. Goldie kissed me on the cheek. That's my claim to fame.
Never wash that cheek.
I got a kiss on this cheek from Goldie Hawn. It was very, very sweet. She was so nice. And it was just such a great time. And then like I said, we crossed paths with Kate and Chris several times. Then, while I was still with the band,
yeah,
moving forward, we'd meet up with them at different places, and super, super nice. So that was a real fun adventure that just all kind of happened.
Yeah, just and it's totally true. It's like you were at the right place at the right time, like that, that she was just coming out with that movie too.
Right. So she had been studying for that role and talking about this movie she was going to be in. And I knew who Cameron Crowe was and everything. And that's exciting. Great. But I remember going to the theater to see it and seeing the poster, and the poster is Kate's face.
The girl that you knew who played at her wedding.
Yeah. That's, and she was kind of like, well, I got this little part in this movie. And if you watch the movie, her screen time, I mean, she's a vital character. Yeah. She's a huge part of it. But her screen time, she's not just the leading person all through the movie.
Yeah.
If you think about it, which I have, I've watched the movie thinking about it. It's just, she has it's a great part. And it's like I said, it's vital.
Yeah.
But it was so bizarre, to go, there's Kate on the poster in the lobby of the theater.
Yeah.
And then we go in, and then it's a huge hit. And she is the it star that year, and all of a sudden has a string of movies and is doing really well. Now, I know she still has the baggage of she's still Goldie Hawn's daughter.
Yeah.
That's never going to go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
For good or for bad.
Yeah.
But that was really another fascinating thing then to go see that movie, and it was great. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
A good rock and roll movie.
Yeah.
So
like if you did all those things with like did it ever like get to your head, like you're all, hold on a second, like I'm at the Grammys,
yeah,
I'm with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell at their house, I'm playing these big concerts, like at what point do you go, okay man, it's just me, like what am I doing here? Do you ever get that kind of feeling?
Yeah. Two things. There's times where it's like an out of body experience, like it's happening to somebody else while it's happening, because it is surreal. Like I'm talking to John Fogerty from Creedence Clearwater, and it's like
I didn't know you met him.
Whoa, yeah, we opened for him, and as he's having a conversation with me, it's that voice that we've all heard our whole life.
Yeah.
And I would just be lost in that, like, oh my gosh, that voice.
Yeah.
And then I'd realize, he just asked me a question. Like, I gotta, I'm in a conversation here. I gotta come back. Come on, Jay, get it together.
Yeah.
But the other thing about it was every day was like crazier than the last. So we're meeting all of our heroes and we're in these crazy situations. And it was this super high after super high after super high. My psyche would try to even out, and it was disturbing at first because I couldn't process this. Then I started to get a handle on it, what was happening. I would get super depressed about the littlest nothing.
Really?
Like I realized it was my personality swing trying to compensate. Like I was so hyped and excited because we're meeting these people and we're in this situation that I dreamed about. And then the next day, like my eggs were prepared wrong and I want to cry. And I realized like, why am I even worried about that?
Yeah.
And I started realizing like I needed to process these swings. Like I had to even it out with some down or sadness to even out the crazy, because we were in this crazy high over and over again. And it built up like a snowball. Like, we're at the Grammys. Bob Dylan wants you to open a tour.
Like it keeps getting bigger and bigger.
You can't even fathom it. Bob Seger wants you to open a tour. John Fogerty wants you to open a tour. All these things just like, yes, please. Brian Setzer wants you to open a tour. Yes. And you try to do it all. And then the John Fogerty thing, he put out an album called Blue Moon Swamp in 1997. We would like do a tour and then say, after this tour, we need 2 weeks off.
Sure.
We just need time off.
Yeah.
We've been going for, 22 weeks straight.
Good.
We need 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
Well, then, Bob Dylan comes, says he wants you to do this tour. Well, we're going to do that.
Turn down Bob Dylan.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, we'll do that. That's, that's 9 weeks. Okay.
Oh, God.
Okay. John Fogerty wants you to do this tour. He's put an album. He hadn't put an album out since 1989, whatever.
Yeah.
Center Field or whatever, or the one after Center Field, whatever. And again, we were like, no, like we're going to kill each other. We can't do that tour.
Yeah.
And John Fogerty's people were like, wait, you didn't, like, we said, no, we're not going to do the tour. And he's like, wait, John Fogerty wants you to open the tour. Like, are you not understanding what's happening? This is John
Fogerty,
and we're like, no.
Really?
We understand.
Yeah.
We need 2 weeks off. Like, we're just not going to do it. And they came back with more money. Like, John really wants you to do it. Here's, here's money.
Yeah.
And we were like, no, that's not what's driving this. We've been working for like 32 weeks straight.
Yeah.
We need 2 weeks off. And so we didn't do the tour. We played 2 nights with him at the Ryman Auditorium.
Yeah.
And so we just only did the 2 shows with Fogerty.
Wow.
But it was so neat he's a person in my record collection. He's not a real person.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan's not a real guy.
Yeah.
These are guys in my records.
Yeah.
They're these bigger than life Elvis isn't real, right? He's
No.
he's this myth, you know.
Yeah.
John Fogerty is this thing that we all know, and you put it on the record player, or you turn on the radio, and it's that voice and that thing, and that's that. And he's standing there, and he's like, "I really like your record." He said, "My wife Julie is sick of your record because I play it all the time." Like, that's the sweetest thing I've ever heard.
That's it. Yeah.
And John Fogerty's saying that, like, how do you even process that?
Yeah.
And so those 2 nights at the Ryman were amazing, and we get to. So, like I mentioned earlier, the Ryman had been boarded up when I moved here. It was left for dead.
Wow.
It was falling down. You know, the ceiling was falling in. It was crumbling. And then, like I said, the city wanted to fix up that part of town. They saved the Ryman. That was part of the renovation of everything. And then suddenly they're having shows there. And then we got to play there. And I don't know, we played at the Ryman, 8 or 10 times with different situations. And but that, one of those 2 nights with Fogerty, Sam Phillips and Scotty Moore and Sonny Burgess came.
What year is that?
1997.
Yeah, because Sam died in 2003, 2002. You got to see all these guys.
Yeah. And our friend Mark Hagan from VH1 was there and was with them backstage. And, like, that was such a thrill. Like I said, to me, like, it's one thing. Like, I'd met Scotty Moore before, and that was a huge thrill.
Oh, yeah.
But now he's, like, at our show. It's
Coming to see you.
It's a different thing. It's like,
oh, yeah.
Whoa. And the thing I remember about Sam Phillips was he said, "You guys are really different." He didn't say I liked it. He didn't say it was good.
Really?
He said, "You guys are really different." And I kind of laughed to myself, like,
what does that mean?
That's not a compliment. That's like saying, "Hey, Tom, you got a house here." Well, yeah, you know. Well, later I come to cherish that comment because Sam Phillips, all he was all about was different.
That's true.
That was the highest compliment he could pay somebody.
Yeah.
Was to say you're different.
Yeah.
I took it as he said it, like, that's not a compliment. That's a statement that's indifferent.
Yeah.
Well, later I realized that's the highest praise, and I talked to his son about this after he died. But Jerry was like, "Yeah, that's if my dad said you're different," he said that was the highest
That's
compliment
cool.
he gave anybody.
That's true.
And then I was like, walking a little taller, like, yeah, we were different, and if we didn't sell 1 million records, Sam Phillips appreciated what we did, and I'll take that any day.
Yeah, you met all those guys, and it's like, without being like macabre or whatever, but guys only live so long. But you were at that time, right, when all those guys were like 60 years old, 65 years old.
Right. Yes, because every day still we're losing them.
Yeah.
That link to the past, and we just lost Dwayne Eddy. But my first concert I ever went to as a kid was Waylon Jennings with the Crickets opening.
Oh, really?
And then the Crickets backed Waylon as his band.
No way.
Played. But what blew my little mind, I was 8 years old. My parents took me, like they were going to see the show, and I just happened to be there. We'd seen the Buddy Holly story. I knew enough of the music. What blew my mind was Buddy Holly was dead long before my time.
Yeah.
And that's how I processed that. Here's this guy's story. He died a long time ago.
Yeah.
You start with that.
Yeah.
There's all this great music. He's gone. Then we go to this concert, and it's the guys who were on those records. It's the Crickets playing those songs.
Wow.
And that was kind of mind-blowing to a little kid. Like, wait, everything I've been taught is this guy's dead, and it's the past, and it's gone.
Yeah.
And then here's these guys playing those songs. They're playing It's So Easy, and they're playing Every Day, and they're playing Peggy Sue. And I'm, that's the drummer, and that's the bass player. And I'm like reassessing wait, these guys are alive. This is real. They're playing these songs right here. So then fast forward, I joined BR 549. I'm playing bass. My phone rings one day, and it's Stuart Coleman, who's a producer, and he says, "Is this Jay McDowell?" Yep. "Is this Jay McDowell that plays the upright bass?" Yep. And he says, "I'm producing a record on the Crickets, and we need you to play upright bass." And I'm saying,
Whoa.
Who is this? Like, this is obviously a prank.
Yeah.
You know, is this Jeff? Who is this?
Yeah.
No, he says, we're recording. We're doing it at Jerry Allison's house in his studio. Can you be there, Tuesday afternoon at 1:00? Yes, I'll be there.
Oh, right on.
If this is not a prank, I'll be there.
Yeah.
So I go out there. Now, the bass player, Joe Malden, still played bass, but he didn't do the slapping stuff.
Yeah.
Didn't slap the bass. And turns out Stuart had come to see BR 549 like the night before he called me, and he saw us play. And I'm telling him, like, I just got a bass. I started like 3 weeks ago. Like,
oh, really?
Like I know other bass players that you could get. And,
sure.
And Stuart was like, "No, I saw you last night. We want you." Like,
so this is BR 549 before you guys hit.
Yeah. I just joined.
Wow. Right on.
So I just joined the band, and I'm getting called to make the record with the Crickets.
Yeah.
Right place, right time. So
wow.
I go out to Jerry's house and meet the guys, and I'm telling him about, my first concert. I was 8 years old. I went to see you guys in West Lafayette, Indiana. And Jerry says, "These are the drums that I played that night."
Wow.
And he was using those drums to perform.
Killer.
To record that day, and I was like, "Oh wow!" And the upright bass, I took my upright bass and played it, but there was an upright bass in the corner, and they pointed to it and they said, "Joe played that on the Ed Sullivan Show, that bass."
Whoa!
So I was like, "Can I touch it?"
Yeah.
So I played on it for a minute, got my picture taken with it, and then they queued up a song, and I was kind of playing along. It was a real simple song. I'm playing it down, and the song ends, and in my mind, like, okay, let's cut it.
Yeah.
And Stuart was like, "I think we got it." And I was like, "Oh, I was just like loosening up." And, and Stuart's like, "No, it sounds great. Let's listen to it down." And we listened to it back, and it was like, the beauty of it was I wasn't nervous about the red light coming on. I was just like, let's learn this song.
Yeah.
It was a simple song, and I just played it. And he was like, "Yep, that's great. That sounds good." And I was happy with it. He's like, "Are you happy with it?"
Like a one-take wonder?
One-take thing. And I just did it without even thinking I was recording. I just played it, and it happened. So I was really proud of that. And so we're doing some hand claps and some other stuff. And I just played the bass on that one song. It was just the one slapping song. And his wife, Jeannie, comes down, and Jerry's wife says, "Jerry, there's a phone call." He disappears, and we're doing some hand claps and sitting around, and Sonny Curtis is there, and
wow,
and Jeff Barker was a BBC DJ who was over and was hanging out during the sessions, and we're hanging out, and Jerry comes back in. He goes, "I just got a phone call. The Beatles are going to put out a greatest hits record, and they recorded That'll Be the Day, and it's going to be on the record." And my first thought was like, the Beatles, like, I'd heard that the Beatles recorded That'll Be the Day, like in this little recording shack,
1962.
Really early. And I was like, that's weird. That doesn't really add up. Well, it was the Beatles anthology one.
Yeah.
And the first track is them doing That'll Be the Day.
Wow.
And at the time, he was like, they're going to do a greatest hits album, and That'll Be the Day is going to be on it. And he looks around, and he goes, "I'm going to put a wine cellar in." And, take it with a grain of salt. But, like a year later, that album came out, and he put a wine cellar in. So that was a cool thing to be there, like to be a fly on the wall for that.
Oh, that's funny.
And even as it happened, I was like, well,
what does he mean?
Doesn't add
now,
up.
That kind of leads me to, like, I know that you guys did an airline commercial.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that you kind of got a taste of what residuals are like.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was better than the record residuals you got, or.
I don't know if it was better. It was good all around. It allowed us to be in AFTRA.
Yeah.
And we got We got good residuals. So we did Southwest Airlines commercials. We did recordings for radio, and then we did TV commercials. We did 5 or 6 different commercials, and they aired regionally at any place that Southwest flew to Nashville.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just like it was all over the world, but in these certain cities with direct flights to Nashville where they were aiming it, we got really good coverage. And a lot during sporting events they would advertise.
Oh, yeah.
So LA, I remember Chris Robinson talking about, giving us grief about anytime I watch a Dodgers game, I got to look at your faces. Your guys are, singing "Fly Southwest to Nashville" for a song. Chicago, Cubs games, White Sox games, Bears games. They were always hitting it hard. So those certain cities it was funny because we'd go to certain cities and people would want to ask about the commercials and this and that. Then we go to another city and they would never seen it.
Never saw the commercial.
Wasn't aimed at them.
Yeah.
If Pittsburgh didn't fly to Nashville, it wouldn't. I don't know if that's true, but we'd go to certain cities and it would be off of their radar.
Yeah, yeah.
In other places, that was all they talked about was how we see you on the TV every time we turn it on.
You guys a bunch of young, good-looking dudes. Had a good band. Yeah.
So that was really good for us. And then we did a deal with Jack Daniels. Now, this was before whiskey companies could advertise on TV. Now they can advertise on TV.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it then. But they paid us a lot of money and gave us tour support. And we for 2 years, we were endorsed by Jack Daniels. Wow. And they liked because we had one foot in the countryside and one foot in the alternative side. And it was a little bit of both things. But it's a dangerous thing to get all the free Jack Daniels you want.
Why is that, Jay?
That is a slippery slope.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah.
I love Jack Daniels, and
God.
I enjoyed it. But that was I do remember thinking, whoa, this is a bad thing to just have all of it you want.
Yeah. It would have been better if it was like Toyota.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Get your car.
Sure.
Oh, that's killer.
But yeah, it was fun doing the Southwest commercials, and that was a cool thing to be able to be involved in. And
yeah.
And
well, it looked like from the videos and everything, it seemed like you guys were all young guys having a good time.
Oh, it was a great time. It was, like I said, it was like living your fantasy of the rock and roll lifestyle. Or, we're a country band, but we're getting to travel the world. We went everywhere, got to meet our heroes.
Yeah.
I just remember thinking how, I'm gonna wake up.
Yeah.
That was the feeling. When is this gonna? I woke up. This is all. I'm actually 12 years old and I'm back in my house.
Yeah.
And I woke up and it's, I dreamed it all.
Oh yeah. I had the same dreams. I always wondered when am I going to go on tour? Now I'm too old. I'm not going anywhere, but
right.
But a handful of people get to do it and get, I know a lot of people that tour, but it's
sure.
It's kind of a drag, you get 10 people watching and stuff like that. You're going around in a bus, but you guys actually had a successful tour and you actually had a bus. You had all that stuff.
Well, yeah, we had a really good run, and it was really lots of momentum and a lot of people behind us. And what we felt was we had people rooting for us, especially in Nashville, so I played in a band called Hellbilly, and I was in the local band scene, and it was just kind of cutthroat, and it was...
Yeah.
It was I'm friends with everybody, but there was this competition thing where we all were trying to get the slots and we're trying to get booked in the big gigs. BR549 was not in that scene is the wrong word. They weren't in that scene. They were playing for tips. They weren't competitions because they were just playing at Roberts.
Yeah, just one place.
They weren't stealing gigs from anybody. They were just doing their thing. And as we had success, as I joined them and we had success, it felt like everybody was rooting for us because we were doing what we loved.
Yeah.
And people knew that we were doing what we loved. We were doing the music that we loved, and we were doing it for the right reason. We weren't trying to jump on a bandwagon. Oh, this is hot right now. We're gonna do, I'm not disparaging swing music.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the flavor of the week.
Yeah.
We're going to do this. We did this music because we loved it, and it started to take off with us. Then we start realizing that Big Sandy is doing it in Southern California, and the Bottle Tones are doing it in Chicago, and like there's these little scenes, Uncle Tupelo, and Minneapolis has a little scene, and there's these pockets of places that these kids are into what we're doing. So as we traveled, that was really invigorating to see that, it's not just Nashville.
Yeah.
You got the California thing, you've got this roots rock thing happening, and Dale Watson's happening, and Big Sandy, and Junior Brown comes along, and it's like all this stuff is this kind of it's picking up momentum, and you realize like the people were rooting for us and wanting us to succeed at country radio.
Yeah.
And so that felt really good because, like I said, in the other bands I was in, it didn't feel like people were rooting for us. It was like, well, my band should have that gig, and it had this feeling of.
Yeah, you did have. Like, I've been down to Broadway recently, and like quite a bit actually, because I'm a reality shooter, so I've had to shoot a bunch of shows down there. So, but obviously it's crazier now. Mm-hmm. But like Robert's Western World and maybe Acme is the only place that really has like original music. Everybody else plays like a couple Journey songs, and no problem. They're all great bands and stuff like that. But it's hard to find good original music down there. I guess that's not the place for it,
Right, and. I can't speak to exactly this, but at the same time, 4 hours later on that same stage, you might get a band that's playing original stuff. It's always kind of depending on when you're there and what's happening. But yes, it's so different now that there's so many bands and there's so many places, and it's chaos. And I love it.
You do?
A lot of people think I hate it.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that because it's completely different than it was. But when I came here and it was so deserted and empty.
Yeah.
Deserted and empty. Yeah. It was so deserted. I was heartbroken because I wanted it to be like it is now. I wanted it to be crazy and busy and music from every direction. That's what it should have been.
Yeah.
And so now when I go down there, I'm proud. Like, this is the way it should be. And friends of mine are like, it's crazy. I don't want to go down there. Yeah. You're insane. You like this?
Yeah.
I was like, well, I don't know that I love it, but I love that it's what I wanted it to be. Now.
Oh, yeah.
It came to life, and it came back. And as hectic and chaotic as it is, it still makes me happy that it's providing a living for all these musicians.
Yeah.
That is great. To your point, from club to club, there can be times where like, well, they're doing Journey and Aerosmith and where's the, but I also, as time has gone by, I've sat in with some bands down there, and I was playing with this young kid down there and playing bass, and he was taking requests, and what I was laughing about was he was playing oldies
to him, which
was Brooks and Dunn, Alan Jackson, Garth Brooks, and they're classic country songs. I've heard them enough. I could follow along and play bass.
Yeah.
But I was laughing like in our time there, if people requested Brooks and Dunn, no, you're in the wrong place. We're gonna do Buck Owens and.
Yeah.
We're going back. We're not playing the current stuff.
Yeah.
So that it hit me that like, okay, he's doing exactly what we did. It's just 30 years later.
Yeah.
So he's playing these oldies that when he, before his time, because he's 22, and I didn't process that immediately, but as we played a few songs, it hit me like he's doing exactly what we did. It's just the songs we weren't playing because they were current at the time. So,
yeah. You figure like if you're a kid, and you're like in high school or something like that, like you're 18 years old. So what does that mean? You're born in 2006 or something like that. So like, I remember when I was born, Jimi Hendrix was born he was playing when I was born.
Yeah. And
I looked at Jimi Hendrix like, man, that's a long time ago.
Because he was dead.
Yeah.
Before you were really aware of what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was gone. Buddy Holly was in your rearview mirror, and was gone. And you're right. Even though Jimi Hendrix was in your lifetime,
Yeah.
you weren't aware yet.
Yeah.
It was the past.
Yeah.
To you. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And by
It's
the
all
time,
about perspective. It is.
yeah. And by the time I started playing guitar, I was like 14. He had died before. So like, let's go back 14 years now. 2010.
Yeah.
Like, probably guys think like that, like Stevie Ray Vaughan. Like,
Sure.
oh my gosh, dude, he was
Yeah.
I had all his records.
Sure.
Had a chance to see him, and then I'd kick myself for not seeing him.
Sure.
But
Yeah, it's I was with Dwayne Eddy and Purple Haze came on.
yeah. What do you think about that?
So let's talk about perspective.
Yeah.
Purple Haze, from Rebel Rouser to Purple Haze, is 10 years.
Yeah.
That's a 10-year jump.
Yeah.
And think about the sound of Rebel Rouser and the sound of Purple Haze. And that's 10 years, meaning as Dwayne Eddy lived that time, that was a career length, like, he had this whirlwind of success, 1958, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63. Things are just really happening.
Yeah.
The Beatles come, hard breaks, right?
Yeah.
Like suddenly the American artists, it kind of shuts down on him.
Yeah.
He still had enough of a career to go out and play.
Yeah.
But things turn. It's British bands, British invasion stuff is happening.
Yeah.
That American rock and roll is not the hip thing anymore.
Yeah.
Then it really jumps, and then Cream happens, and then Jimi Hendrix happens, and it really leaves Bill Haley in the dust, right?
Yeah.
That leaves them like, what do we do? They're not relevant at all.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, all these years later, I'm standing with them, and it's like, wow, that's 10 years.
That's nothing.
Now, if you go back from right now,
Yeah.
10 years ago, 2014 to
Yeah.
2024, and you think in difference of music and popular music, it's not as drastic.
No.
It's not as big of a shift.
No.
There is, if we pulled up and streamed music from 2014 right now, we can analyze it and say, well, this auto-tune is happening, or this thing is
Yeah.
happening, or whatever. But it's still not as drastic as 1958 to 1968.
I would say, like, the classic thing in American culture, if you watch American Graffiti,
Yeah.
it was done 10 years after 1962. He did
Yeah.
it in 72.
Yeah.
And everyone's got long hair, and like,
Yeah.
it's like, it was a totally different, like, in that 10 years in our culture,
Right.
I've never seen anything change so much. I'm sure it was, the Beatles and free love and Vietnam War and all
You're
that
right.
stuff.
Hair
and everything.
length,
Yeah.
clothing completely drastically changed.
Yeah.
Styles changed. It was such a quick
Yeah.
succession of explosion. And since then, it hasn't been able to continue that. We just haven't been able to.
Yeah.
Now, technology has
Yeah.
sped up. Technology has moved and kept that pace
Yeah.
and quickened. So in that sense, things have
Well,
ramped up.
That's one thing I did want to ask you about, like, and I did want to comment on is like new music now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was working on a show, and it was with songwriters,
Mm-hmm.
and they had like a couple hours to come up with a country song. And so what they did is they had a dude with a computer, and all the other songwriters were there. And so what would happen is, like, one of the songwriters would be like, hey, I just airdropped a beat to you. Can you put that beat down? He put the beat down, then someone would have a guitar and start playing along with it. And then they start singing, and it was like hip hop influenced. Mm-hmm. And I thought, like, okay, this isn't the way that, is Chris Stapleton doing this, or Yeah. But then I go to YouTube and I look at the thing, and I'm okay. Shabuzi, this year he's got like almost 200 million views on YouTube from that song, and it seems like a simple song, but like, dude, it's so catchy. It's like
it is.
And so I say, more power to the guy. But then I also kind of lament, like, oh man, what happened to guitars? What happened to
Yeah. Well, my brain, there's 30 different answers for that. Yes, the idea of sitting down with a guitar and playing a song, writing a song, that can seem really quaint to those people.
Yeah.
But that still happens.
Yeah.
It still happens. I also don't want to shun technology. I want to explore technology and use it and utilize it and have it help me. I also want to make a recording that is trying to sound like Little Richard in 1956.
Yeah.
I also want to do that. There's value in that too. But I've said it before, if country music didn't evolve past 1936, some people would love it because it stayed pure.
Yeah.
They wanted to keep it just like it is.
Yeah.
And now we've got electricity coming in, and we've got technology advancing with recording techniques, and that becomes part of the thing, part of the formula that you're making these recordings.
Like people would, damn Les Paul.
Yes. Yeah. like keep electricity out of it. That's the ruination of the art.
Yeah.
Is that Les Paul's coming in and trying these new, they're putting this weird echo on stuff and reverb and, get that out of here.
Yeah.
I want it to sound like you and I are sitting here playing the music and it's just us. Well, okay. If you froze the music and didn't let it evolve, think of all the amazing music that has happened since 1936 that we would miss out on because you had to keep it pure and not
put parameters on it
and not mix up other types of music with it. And this is where I want it to be. And so I catch myself if I hear something newfangled. Yeah. I'll use that term.
Newfangled.
that I want to dismiss.
Yeah.
I'll go back to myself and say, "Oh, let it grow and let it be and let it happen."
Yeah.
And Shabuzi's a perfect example of something that's undeniably successful.
Oh yeah.
It's catchy.
Yeah.
And it's reaching people.
Yeah.
It is. Yes, I hear it and it's like, well, yeah, it's they're putting a beat over it and it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
It's not something I search out. But you can't argue with the numbers.
No, and one thing I was doing is I was looking at the comments on it and it's like, well, I didn't think of country, but boy, I really like this country.
Right.
And so that could get him into it. Like my wife, in the 90s, we were all into, punk rock, Southern California, Sublime and all that stuff. And then she heard Don't Take the Girl, that one country song. And then all of a sudden she's all, oh, I love country now. So she listens, she doesn't go past, the 90s, right. But she always follows all that stuff. And it's all because that one song that she heard and it turned her from Southern California, Sublime and all that stuff into real, country music.
And BR549, every night I heard that. I don't like country music, but I like you guys.
Really?
And I'd be like, well, then, we're as country as can be. Then you need to listen to more country music because we're country. We're not trying to hide that. And their point was they didn't like what was currently on the radio as being sold to them as country music. But our point was like, well, listen to George Jones and listen to Johnny Cash and listen to Red Foley and listen to Eddie Arnold and of those four artists, that's a really wide range of country music too.
Sure.
You're not necessarily going to like all four of those artists, but something in there, you can appeal. Now, I also, to your earlier question, to me, it's all about context and perspective on music. I can enjoy any type of music if you give me context about the song or an interesting fact about the singer or something that I can latch onto that makes it worthwhile. For example, Every Day by Buddy Holly and the Crickets.
Yeah.
The drummer is slapping his blue jeans.
Yeah.
And I never thought about that as a kid, and I hear that song, and then I learned that they recorded him slapping his blue jeans, and you hear his hands hit his blue jeans.
Yeah.
And then now when I hear that song, it's like, oh, that's interesting. And it makes you pay attention to the song more. It grabs you. And I work at a museum now, and these kids come in, and they are jazzed about some new singer, Jelly Roll. They're jazzed about Lainey Wilson. They're jazzed about this person. And I may have heard the song and been like, not my thing.
Yeah.
But if a 10-year-old is telling me like, hey, she recorded this song and she recorded it in her car.
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting, and then I'll listen to it with
Yeah.
some context, like, oh, that's a cool thing. It's a different way of doing it. What's another one? Bill Black Combo did a song called Smokey, part 1 and part 2, and it's an instrumental. It's fine. It's nothing. It didn't do much for me necessarily. It's kind of like a Dwayne Eddy kind of.
Yeah.
That's the way I looked at it. Like, oh, they're trying to be Dwayne Eddy, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, then I find out Reggie Young, the guitar player, like used a pencil to hit the string, like as a pick. He popped the strings with a pencil.
Cool. Yeah.
And now when I hear it, I'm like, that's really cool. And I
Yeah.
love the song. And I realized it hit me one day that the recordings that we've grown up listening to, the first time you hear a song, it may not grab you.
Yeah.
But then you learn something about the recording of it or the context of it.
Yeah.
And the next time I heard Smokey, I loved it. And then I'm telling my friend, like, listen to this song. He's playing it with a pencil. And I realized the song, the recording didn't change between my listenings. I changed.
The story behind it.
My brain changed. I was
Yeah.
the change.
Yeah.
And then it's the exact same recording, and suddenly I'm in, and I'm into it. So if a kid tells me about a song and gives me a reason to pay attention, it doesn't matter what genre it is. If it's rap, if it's hip hop, if there's an interesting angle and it's clever,
Yeah.
I can enjoy it and I can get something out of it.
Yeah.
Now, I greet people at the museum all day, every day who say, I can't listen to rap. Just dismiss it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like rap. And I don't want to be confrontational, but I'm so turned off by, like, you're going to just dismiss all of this art because you have a preconceived notion of what it is.
Yeah.
I don't like country music. Wow. There's, I can't listen to punk rock.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair, but like that really is limiting, same with saying I don't like country music. Well, have you listened to this?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Well, have you listened to this? Yeah, I don't care for that. Okay, cool. There's such a wide range of stuff in every genre of music.
And if you think about it, that's what Sam Phillips was doing. He was putting gospel together with black music, with hillbilly music, and he was mixing all this stuff because he knew what people would. He was trying to stumble on the secret sauce.
Yeah.
You know, and which people still do today.
And you got to have failures to find it. You got to go down these roads where it's not at to get to where it's at.
Yeah. The one thing I did notice, I was looking at pictures of all these different guys that have been coming up, and they all, like the successful guys, seem to all have like a cool story. Like that Jelly Roll guy. Yeah. My wife was telling me the guy was in prison and all this stuff, and then I was thinking, okay, Hank Williams, like his stuff's, a kid today might say, oh, it's kind of hokey or whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, the guy, he's an alcoholic, died at 29, but he had all these. It's just that hard luck story.
He had demons.
Johnny Cash had demons and his redemption, and I think that's what makes it better. Like these guys are not just singing songs because they can sing; it's like they're telling a story.
Yeah. Oh God, there's so many people that can sing.
Oh yeah.
That's not where it's at. I'm not a good singer, but there are so many people that can sing.
Yeah.
That I hear that a lot. Like, oh, my niece, you should hear her voice.
Yeah.
Well, what's her story?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's great to have a good voice. That's great. But why should I listen to her? And I get people that come to me and say, like, listen to my band. And I'll say, are you good? Well, and, like put modesty aside. Are you good? Do you believe in yourself?
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to get there. And, if you don't believe, why should I believe?
Yeah.
I don't mean to be dismissive, but I do turn that around on people all the time. Are you good?
Yeah.
And the people who are like, yeah, we're good. Then, okay, let me hear it. And what's your story?
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Like, it's interesting now that American Idol and The Voice and the shows have driven so much of, it's a game show. But if you'll notice, the ones who are successful have a story. That's part of those shows.
I do want to say one thing. Like my son is a dancer, and he grew up in our house and not pretty much uneventful in our house. And the producers call him. He went out for like So You Think You Can Dance. He sent in a tape, and we really like you and stuff. But what's your story? I don't know, man. My life's pretty good. I don't have any problems. Oh, well, all right. Then click.
Right.
You know, and I'm all, you idiot. You should have said, you know, like I was tormenting you or something, you know.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing. If you don't have an angle,
Yeah.
there's no offense, but click.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I get that's where they're coming from, because a lot of people can dance.
Yeah.
And they are looking for the people with the story. It's as wrong as that may seem,
Yeah.
or as hurtful as it can be.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same. You know, I grew up just Midwest kid, falling in love with this rockabilly music, and that again, rockabilly. That word to you means something that's different than what it means to me. That's different to the listeners that you have here. You know, that conjures different things. What is rockabilly?
Yeah.
Rockabilly is a really wide net.
Yeah.
That covers a lot of stuff. Where I'm growing up, just like happy to hear something a little twangy, like, oh, I dig it, and then I really felt it in California. Like, people can be really narrow-minded about, oh, you got drums and you're not rockabilly, or oh, you don't wear the right clothes, you don't drive the right car.
Yeah.
And you realize, like, oh, it's, in my mind, it needs to be this.
Yeah.
And in a lot of people's mind, it's this.
Well, for me, rockabilly was about 6 months in 1982, you know, and it was like, you know, you're growing up and it's a pinnacle, man. I really found myself. These are my people, you know?
Yeah.
I guess you're always like trying to go back to that feeling or something.
Sure. Yeah. Still. And the idea that rock and roll also a really wide, if you say rock and roll, if rock and roll happened in 1955, 56,
Yeah.
like it really was a short window.
Yeah.
It blew up. It was this thing.
Yeah.
It scared everybody. It was threatening.
Yeah.
Then it watered down. It has little peaks and things pop up again here and there, and things happen. But then it's like, really, it's like 6 months in 1956.
Yeah.
And you're right. Then this revival's like 6 months in 1982. This thing pops up, and it's this thing, and it's marketed.
Yeah.
And it reaches middle America too.
Yeah.
And so it's fascinating to see. And you're right. Now we're in this place today where there aren't kids in the garage playing guitars.
Yeah.
But there are kids on their laptops making beats.
Yeah.
And I can see the parallel there.
Mm-hmm.
I can also see how that can seem frustrating. Like,
Yeah.
I want the kids and the guitars in the garages.
Okay, I mean, here's old deals. Like, I still play music with friends and stuff, and it's just the energy of some guys in the room. You start to get it tight, you know, and you hear every note, and if guys banging too loud, you got to bring it down together and get all the time together. It's like it's this big puzzle that you put together. And I guess that's what I miss, like that. Every once in a while, you just get that feeling, and you're like, yeah, dude, this sounds right. You know, I just don't know if you can get that with a computer, but that's my old man talking.
Yeah, it is. But yes, I've been in that room where suddenly the song is playing me. We're playing the song, and then suddenly it takes over, and everything it's just coming out of us.
Yeah.
And you lock into that thing, and once you find that feeling, you keep wanting it.
Yeah.
You keep wanting that feeling. You keep wanting to get back to that place. And BR549 definitely had that. We felt that every night. We could lock into that.
Oh yeah.
Every night.
You're playing at the Star Club on Broadway.
Yeah.
You know, basically.
Yeah, we're locking into that thing.
Yeah.
And it's that torrent, and it's that river that's moving, and you're finding it. And what we had to do was, as we traveled and went from town to town and different countries, it's like we got to find that thing and bring it to the audience. That's what people are there for.
Really?
Is to lock into that thing. And it's like you said, you're sitting around, and it's going back to sitting around in your front room and playing with your friends.
Yeah.
And you find that thing, and when it's right, it's
you're selling them a feeling, basically.
oh, you're totally selling them a feeling, and you're trying to lock into that. And if you feel that and you get hooked on it and you can't go back to it, that's damning. That's
really
hard. Yeah.
Do you ever feel like, I know you play with Bell Furies, every once in a while you play with people. Do you ever feel like getting a project back together? Or?
I don't want to travel. I don't want to do that. I love being here. Felt like put in the miles and did all that.
Oh yeah.
Chuck and I and Joey and Chris from the Bell Furies are going to go and do a one-off in February. We're called the $100 Quartet.
All right.
And so we'll do some BR stuff. We'll do some Belfries tunes.
Oh, cool.
And maybe a Beatles tune here or there.
Oh,
But
right
it's just a one-off thing in Spain at the
oh,
the Rockin' Race.
yeah. How much would it cost me to have you guys come in here and do 3 songs here?
You couldn't afford us, Tom.
Probably not. I'll put on the Venmo for you guys. Let's see what we can get. Now, that'd be a killer band. I'd love that.
I love Joey. So I met Joey in 19
Yeah.
and in Cleveland, him and his brother came on the bus. His older brother, I think his older brother, and we were hanging out, and Joey gave me a cassette tape, of a song or two he'd written, maybe 2 or 3 songs, and we got a lot of that. We get a lot of cassette tapes from people, songwriters wanting to do their songs and or hear their band or whatever. We want to open for you next time you're in town, blah blah blah. And I always listened to all those tapes. I always listened to them, and there was some bad ones. There were some good ones. Well, this one was great.
Yeah.
And I remember that made an impression on me. It was a really good tape. And I passed his info on to our manager or whatever. I don't think anything ever happened of it. Well, 10 years later, these people are telling me about this. You got to hear this album by this band, the Belfuries.
Yeah.
It was just plain lonesome. And people kept saying, like, this is a band that sounds like BR549. This sounds like you guys. You got to hear this record. I searched it out, and I heard it, and I was like, this is great. This is really good. No idea it was that kid.
Oh, the same guy. Yeah.
Because he was in Cleveland then, and this is a band from Texas. And so
yeah,
I'm not putting it together and everything. They're playing. They put out another album called Palmyra. It's great. And that record, their second album, is, I don't know, 5-6 years later, and it's really like a little more power poppy Beatles, like early Beatles, which I love also.
Yeah.
Killer melodies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Joey. It's killer.
Yeah.
But it's a different animal than that first album. It's not like a BR549 album. It's like early Beatles.
Yeah.
But it's its own thing, and I loved it. And so I'm all in. I was like, I love it. And then they were playing. I was up visiting my grandmother in Indiana.
Yeah.
And they were playing in Indianapolis, and I saw that, and I was like, I got to go see them. I'd never seen them.
Yeah.
And so I go and I go see the show, and I said hi to them, and just love your records, and it's amazing. And
yeah.
And Joey's like, you don't remember me, do you?
All right.
I was like, no. And he goes, we were in Cleveland. We came to see you at the Beachland Ballroom, and we got on your bus, and I gave you a tape, and I totally remembered.
Oh, no way. That's funny.
I do remember you. Yeah. Like, I had no idea that was him. So then we stayed in touch all these years. Of course, then Facebook happened, and connected there, and stayed in touch and through the internet. And so Joey is always like, hey, come play bass with me.
Yeah.
Do this.
What an honor. Yeah.
No.
Oh, really?
Meaning, like, no, I don't want to join the band and go on the road. Like, no, I'm off of that. I'm done.
Wow.
But he got. We did a one-off thing at Graceland in Memphis for the Ameripolitan Awards.
Yeah.
And we got together, and we went to Sun Studios, to Jerry Phillips' place. Not the classic Sun Studios, but the Sam Phillips recording studio behind there on Madison, and recorded a song, and they did a Bop Flicks session for that.
Oh, cool.
And we just were having fun, and did a song, and that's where the $100 Quartet thing came up.
Okay.
So
cool.
when the Bop Flicks thing came up, the guy from Spain got us to do that thing, and so yeah, I'm really excited about that. But Joey's amazing, and the Belfuries are great.
Yeah.
And
that's like the Belfuries. That's like one band that, like, whenever I hear like Beaumont Blues or any of those songs, I'm like, God, why isn't this like on the radio? Like it's befuddling to me, but I'm not an A&R guy. What do I know?
Right. So, all 3 of those albums, like, to me, are where it's at. But I also learned a long time ago. You just said it. I'm not an A&R guy. I don't know what's popular with people. Stuff that reaches me, and I'm just all in. Yeah, it's like that should be the biggest selling record this year.
Yeah.
No, It's not.
Yeah.
So I can't pick a hit.
Yeah.
Beaumont Blues, strong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I listen to that and I'm all, I try to play that loud in my car. I'm hoping like someone is going to be driving next to me and like hear it and be all, who's that? I'll turn you on to the Belfuries, But even though the song's been out for like 10 years,
And they're like, sir, can you turn that down?
Yeah, turn that. Yeah, that's not Shabuzi. What is this?
Oh, I like it. You're selling Belfuries albums one car at a time.
One car at a time.
In rural Tennessee. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Playing,
old school.
Playing to the masses.
But those guys, Junior Brown should be the biggest thing ever. Stevie Ray Vaughan should be the biggest thing ever.
Yeah.
He was pretty big. Stevie Ray Vaughan was pretty big.
Well, okay, that's one other comment I want to make. Like, you're a player, and guys just like guitar music. I would think maybe like Chris Stapleton is probably the best thing now. He's not like up and down the neck, but he could if he had to. But to me, it's like his stuff is really tasty, and it's just a good tone on his guitar. But like, probably like Waitress, never heard her name, with the Alan Jackson song. Like that's got some killer telly on it. Mm-hmm. But you don't really hear a lot of songs like with a lot of heavy guitar like that really get me. Mm-hmm. My wife can't stand listening to Django Reinhardt. She says it gives her a headache.
Just too much.
She just wants to hear that electronic beat or there's something simple, which is fine. But
well, the thing I think about is Vince Gill. Early 90s maybe. I saw him on a TV show playing guitar, and he was great. Chicken picking, like doing it. And I was like, wow, this guy is amazing. And I remember being really honestly impressed by his guitar playing. Wow, who's this guy, Vince Gill? Wow. And then, a year later, he's got this huge country hit, and it's really like Vince Gill country hits. They're
where's the solo?
It's not playing a guitar. It's not a flashy guitar. It's a mellow song. It's it's reaching the ladies. Yeah. And it's selling really well. And it's like, well, he's not. That's not his angle. And but he saw that lane. Oh, I'm going to take this. I don't blame him. I'm going to take this lane. It's selling a bajillion records. Well, then the thing about it is Vince has that in his back pocket. He can still pull it out and still wow you with the guitar. But I feel like there's some strength there with the fact that he's not relying on that, but it's there and he can pull it out when he wants to.
I think he's just
Chris Stapleton can too.
He's a wise performer, like that's what I was out in Southern California. I'm a camera guy, so I had some buddies of mine that were working out on the what is that, the big thing out in Palm Springs, the big rock concert. I forget what it is, but they do that for 1 week, and then they leave the stage up, and then after that they have Stagecoach, and it's a country thing.
Anyway, is it Coachella?
Yeah, Coachella. Yeah. So forgive me for not knowing rock and roll. So Coachella's 1 week, and Stagecoach is the next. And then like I was asking the camera guy, he's like, because he shoots both of them. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, man, Coachella's just like a bunch of drunk people and stuff. It's kind of crazy, Then but then you go to the country western, and it's all the most beautiful women in Southern California come to that thing, because that's what they dig, And I know they're not going there to hear chicken picking,
right?
They're going to see some, good-looking cowboy dude with muscles and singing, and So I guess if that's what you want to do, start working out and wear a cowboy hat, and So, anyways, you got any other parting words for me before you get going?
Let me tell you, Tom. Here's my parting word for you. No, thanks for doing this. I love telling stories, and it's as BR 549 went through so much so fast, we couldn't process it in the moment. We couldn't process it all. I had journals, so I wrote things down.
Cool.
But as it was happening, it was too much. And now a picture will show up on the internet of us somewhere, and all of a sudden I'll be like, oh yeah, we met that guy, and we were playing this show, and this happened. Like, it pulls these memories out. And so I write about that stuff every day and post it on social media and blog about it and all that stuff. But that's where that stuff comes from, and it's kind of therapeutic. It's cathartic. It gets stuff out, and it helps me to write. And so one day I'll sit down every day I sit down and write, but I'll start typing and in my mind, like, oh, I'll type about playing on David Letterman's show, and I'll start typing and I'll realize I'm really telling this story. It's really not about the Letterman show. It's about this other thing. And songwriting is that way too. You can say, hey, let's write a song about this. And as you write the song, oh, it's really about my Aunt Martha, and it's not about going to Las Vegas. You know what I'm saying? I'm just making up stuff. But that's where the writing comes in, and because I couldn't process it in the moment. Yeah. Too much happened too fast that I share all these stories, and I get such great positive feedback online from people. So if you're not, I post a story every day on Facebook. Yeah. So look me up on there, and there's stories, and people comment and ask questions and tell their memories about it, and it's this cool. It's a cool interactive thing.
Well, it's something that not everybody goes through. It was like, what was it like? Like you guys, it's not like you hit the huge big time. You weren't like the main rock star and all that crazy, but you were around so much stuff. You played all the same venues. You met so many different people, and then you still have your brain about you as you got out of it, and you can look back on it and tell the stories. And that's what's fascinating is like, who gets that opportunity? Right. Like you got that opportunity.
Yeah, we were right place, right time. Yeah. That was it. It all happened, and to be in Nashville as that all came together was magical. There was Jason and the Scorchers had gone through it in the '80s, and then we showed up. We went through it. The Mavericks were happening at the same time. Yeah, the Mavericks were just before us, but in that same kind of era, and. To have all that going down, the Mavericks really, they had gone out a year before. It seemed like everything they did, we did a year later. Like they did the TV shows, and then we did the TV shows. They put a record out, we put a record out. They went to the Grammys, we went to the Grammys. And everywhere, every step of the way, we're going to radio stations the whole time. And every radio station we'd visit, they would say, well, the Mavericks told us about you guys a year ago that there was this band playing in this little club on Broadway and playing for tips. And we heard about you then. And now you're here. And they would say, what, the Mavericks told us about you a year ago. Tell us what's happening now in Nashville. Yeah. Like they kind of looked for us for what's next, And
cool.
So we'd tell them about other bands that were playing around Nashville. But so that was just an amazing time to be in Nashville and have that all happen, and to be young and hungry and we were all in. Once we signed the record deal, we went, and
you did it. 5
guys, we worked hard, and we could count on each other, and we showed up every night, and we gave it our all, and like I said, it was all a dream. It was amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad you made it out.
Made alive. It out alive, yeah. Not everybody does. You're right.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on out, Jay. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Tom.
Yeah.